He is the man of the hour. I want you to know that Ray is, oh my goodness, I would call him the coach of coaches when it comes to storytelling. And I have attended different trainings that he's done through the years, and I have left meditating for weeks on some of the things that he has challenged me to think on. And so we're thankful and grateful to have Ray, and he has a group of people that will be assisting him this morning.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure if it's good or bad to follow J.O. Terry. Oh my gosh. I love that guy so much. I know it's hard to start emotional, but meeting J.O. at ION in Colorado many years ago, I was impressed. I sat in on a training that he was doing along with another professor in Dallas, Fort Worth area. And at one point was asked to give some input, and I shared what I thought was a little bit of an obscure Old Testament story as part of my response. And I shared a section that I thought, yeah, that should about sum it up. Without even a breath in between the end of my sentence and the beginning of his, J.O. picked up on the same story and carried it out for several more verses. It kind of blew me away. I was like, oh my gosh. He didn't know what I was going to share, and I'm just very, very impressed. And as we all are, so grateful for this man's legacy. So again, J.O., thank you. I want to share this morning a bit of oral hermeneutics as a course that has been taught in Africa for denomination. I used to travel all the time. COVID shut that down and nearly shut me down this week. I am a COVID patient currently, so it's a good thing we're all remote. But because of that, we've done the same thing as everybody else. We pivoted, we figured out how to go online, and it's not ideal, but it's working quite well. They're going to other languages, and then each generation tends to go to another language. By the third generation, most of them are also going live. And one of the things that even listening yesterday for the little bit I was able to, I keep hearing more and more thoughts that just make sense as to why this has to happen. We're Americans. We live in the West. And so for everybody who's guilty of that, just by birth or whatever, we've also been raised to know that we're right. And whether that's right or not, that's part of our mentality. And so we think that we need to export what we have to the world. The good things that we have, yes, we should. And God has given many, many opportunities for that. In doing this course, something that Tom Steffens said about a friend in the Philippines there, among the Ifugao, said to Tom that for 30 years, Tom had been reading books. Well, this man had been reading people. And that clicked with me. And I just thought, oh my goodness, there's a lot to that. If you've ever heard the expression, read the room, people, if you've ever read the culture map, there's so many things that are true about that and so very valuable. So I'm going to try a screen share and walk you through only a little bit of the course and encourage some discussion as we go, because the course is 40 hours long. Obviously, we're not going to get that done. But hopefully we have just a sample that'll whet your appetite to how this can be approached, especially for oral learners in the context of character theology. So let's see if this works here. And okay, I hope you're seeing that okay.
Yes, we are.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So a little bit of introduction. The people that we are doing this with first are pretty much all literates, pretty much all also oral learners because of where they live and work and the cultures they've been raised in. And because they've been trained by classically Western styled education, we've walked through just a little bit of, some things to think about that are necessary. And especially because our target audience is people who don't read or don't rely on reading, we just wanted to cover some basics. We actually started this course by listening on day one to different types of literature to help emphasize this. That simple language says what it says. In the Bible, that's the histories and the letters. That symbolic language says something else. It's poetry, prophecy, and apocalyptic literature. Those are not the same. They shouldn't be handled the same. We all know this. However, it's also a necessary place to start for folks who aren't bound to literature. And we started by listening to Maya Angelou, Why the Cage Bird Sings, great piece, and discussing what that was about. We listened to a piece by Chinua Achebe about when Okonkwo threw the cat. If you've not read it, you deserve to spend some time reading it. It's fantastic. And we finished with Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream. Even though that was based in America, so many people in Africa relate to it quite well. And so we discussed the differences of those and how they are to be understood. And it's interesting to listen to people's input as they reflect on why things are said and how they're said, of course. Story is just so much more than we can express. This doesn't do any justice at all. Story is a lot of the what, a lot of the who, a lot of why, and so much more than all of that. It speaks in so many ways that it makes me think, well, why would we want to limit it? Why would we want to put parameters around something that is so large? And as Jo just said, lift it off the page, let it come back to life. It's two-dimensional and flat when we have it printed, but it's so much more than that. The Holy Spirit is neither limited nor threatened or intimidated by small vision of a singular homogenized truth. Again, as we heard yesterday, that's a reality that many of us have been taught. Get to the point, get to the singular lesson. And in traveling around many countries in the world and doing this with so many people, I realized that we are missing out when we don't do this. It's not advancing. There we go. We'll skip this. Just to comment that we had some discussion about what's needed to do proper hermeneutical study, textual. And once we had that list, then we asked the question, which of those are missing if we do oral hermeneutics? And actually the answer came back, none of them were missing except the written word. Everything else was there. So there's more on that, but we're going to skip it. Character studies, the great thing about this is reading people and situations. And it's made me think, I wish the Bible had editor's notes. It had dramatic notes like the Passion Bible or the Voice or something. I wish, does anybody have sarcastic friends? Yeah. Do you ever miss it when they say something sarcastic? I do that all the time. I'm married to one. And at times I just completely miss it. And when I do, I've missed the point. I've missed the intended communication. And many times I wish the Bible had those notes for us so that we could realize, oh, he said those words, but he didn't mean them. Or, yeah, that's what she did, but this is what she really wanted to do. Just like, again, Jo mentioned when Martha comes in with her hands on her hips and her attitude. I can hear her tone of voice when she's saying to Jesus, "Teacher, don't you care? Lord, don't you care?" And it's really, really fascinating. So how do we help people who are oral learners, who aren't reliant on literature, examine this further? And I've realized we just need to give them permission. They do this all the time. So I love this picture because I hate this picture. Each character in a story and each listener has a unique point of view. And we can read that about 5 times and just barely be beginning to get the idea. Every character in the story, every character who is listening to the story comes with a unique point of view. The Holy Spirit is completely able to manage all of that. And that's why so many of us love the story and the impact of it, because it disciples like nobody's business. It can get individually into each person and deliver what they need on that day. And that's why for me, I've only been at this 15 years, but I'm still so in love with it and still so fascinated by the fact that it's just always new. It's always new. It's always new. It can't get old. And when we move culture to culture, we hear things and encounter things through the worldview perspective of those we are talking with that are so powerful. And I've been very, very blessed by that. And I was realizing last night and this morning, as I was thinking about this presentation for y'all, that one of the things I'm a geek about is I love personality profiles. I just think they're fascinating. And I realized that they're all literate based. I've often wondered, will these things work in Africa? Will they work in Southeast Asia? Do they work the same everywhere? And it's very clear to me, no. Because they're based upon words, many of which aren't necessarily part of the vocabulary of the people we might be talking to. And so then I asked the question, well, what's next? How do people in other countries assess character? And I realized that the answer has been sitting there right in front of me. When we as a US-based organization want to hire international staff, we interview them because that's what we've been taught. That's what we do. When our international staff want to hire people, they watch them. You catch the difference? It's huge. We interview people, we ask lots of questions. What about, what about, what about? They watch people. And in fact, I've bowed to the wisdom of some of our international staff in letting them set the parameters for how they go about interviewing people. And it's not a sit down talk. It's an invitation to come be alongside them and to work with them for a couple, 3 months. And they'll just watch them and see how they respond to situations. And in that, they're learning the person's character. They're learning how they respond when they have to travel a long ways to go to their location for the next training. They learn how they respond when the lodgings are not very nice at all, and when the heat is really stifling. And they learn a lot about the person by observation. And I realized that's the same thing that we see with so much of character theology, is that by observation, they learn a great, great deal. I've often heard the expression in many places in Africa and others as well. When I ask a question about someone in particular, the answer usually comes back measured and patient. We will see how this person responds. And that's their answer. And they're just going to wait until that happens. A lot of wisdom in that. So I'm going to walk you through a little exercise now. And those who are to help me, please unmute and be ready to give some answers. I can't see the screens very well because of the nature of screen sharing on my side. I'm going to show you some pictures of this man. This man's name is Jamal. And for each picture, I'm going to give you a little bit of Jamal's story. And then I'm going to ask you to describe what you know about his character after each little mini session. So If you're ready to help me, can you just sound off with a yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, good. All right. We got at least two. I'm hoping there's a few more. So
Yes.
Right.
Also.
Yes.
thank you guys. All right. So here's Jamal. He's a regular churchgoer. He even plays the drums. People like his drumming. The pastor often mentions that his drumming adds a great amount to the church service. He always seems to be a positive person. So at this point in our story, how would you describe this man?
He's probably likable.
Okay, good, good, likable.
He's gifted.
What was that?
He's gifted.
Gifted, yes, thank you.
A lot of people have reached a conclusion he's a good person.
Yes. Well liked by a lot of people. A lot of people would say he's a good person. Good, good.
Perhaps he is an approval-seeking person,
Oh, wow. Tell me more about that.
in that he's doing things and he's getting comments, he's getting feedback. That's a need of his that he thrives on.
Wow, wow. Good, good. Thank you.
I would suggest as a regular churchgoer, the obvious is perhaps he actually loves the Lord.
Ah, okay. Nice. Nice.
With a name like Jamal, he could be a Muslim background believer.
True. Very true.
He looks satisfied, possibly, or kind of content and happy coming out. His eyes look tired, though.
Ah, aha. I love it. Love it. Very interesting. Okay, let's advance one more slide and one more part of his story. We'll have the same question. Jamal is popular with many people, especially children. He does not have children of his own in his family, but he's often seen giving candy to the children in the neighborhood. The store owner is always happy to see Jamal coming because he knows he spends quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
So now add to our descriptions of his character.
Very likable and loved by the kids.
Yeah,
He's generous,
generous, good, good,
caring.
caring, nice.
He's concerned about the future
Ah,
generation.
wow. Okay,
No doubt, I would suspect he wants to make an impact upon the future generation and their outlook on life.
wow, good, good.
Some supposition on my part, if he is from Muslim background, the church that he was walking out of was a Western style looking church building with a cross on it. And so he may have made a transition over to internally to a more of a Western cultural context, moving away from his Muslim community. That wouldn't have been gone over well in a Muslim community.
Very true. Good, good. I love the observations. Very accurate. Go ahead.
If he was American, I would be a little cautious if he was handing out candy to a bunch of kids on a regular basis.
Yes.
It like just like changes my perspective of like, oh, I don't know, why are you handing out candy to kids when it's not Halloween, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I wonder if he's lonely.
Ah, wow, wow. Okay.
Also, maybe he identifies with the kids when he was a kid, that maybe they didn't care for him, and now he is reflecting on that.
Wow. Wow. I love the breadth of life that's already being examined here. Very, very good. Let's walk it forward one more story. Jamal also has a secret. A different store owner farther from his house knows that he also spends quite a bit of money in his store. Usually goes to this store only at night. He's quiet when he goes in and quiet when he comes out. He doesn't talk to people in that part of town.
It looks like perhaps he has a drinking problem,
Mhm.
perhaps. We don't know. We don't know that the drink is actually for him.
Okay.
I think too, being an educator in the school, and unfortunately in our Western culture, some of these people feed on the children, the innocence. And in that lifestyle, even though he's liked in his church, this secret unveiled, he leads a secret life. So we see many things surfacing in our Western world today based on people and their secrets.
Yes.
He's in such pain that he needs to numb himself, but he's in pain. That is why he has the secret, because he's isolated.
Wow.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just again, following along on the idea that because you said, Jamal, give him a local name. I see the comment written there on the screen, is that part of that section of town could be Muslim. And he goes at night to that store because it's in the area of the Muslim community, and he's being careful about who sees him and what he's doing. Maybe because of negative reactions to him becoming a Christian and identifying now with perhaps the more Christian side of the town or village community.
Yeah. Wow. You guys are doing a great job of reading the situations. This is super.
I think he could be very sick. He looks like his clothes are just kind of hanging on him. Maybe the other store he's going to is a pharmacy or some kind of medical supply.
Okay.
I think just as you indicated from the very beginning, now I get a better understanding as to why the persons in other cultures will want to watch for some like 3 months. Because initial impressions can be inaccurate.
Yeah.
Yes.
We just don't know just yet.
A lot of wisdom there. Yeah.
The bottle he's hiding behind his back has 3 X's on it, which might indicate that it's alcohol that he's got.
Yeah, that's what the guy said.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be medicine too.
Could be. That's kind of
Here they might put 3 X's on something to say you're supposed to take it 3 times a day.
Oh, it's true.
okay.
But his
Well, let's
reaction usually means this triply distilled XXX.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at his physical stance, his bowed head, his eyes, his facial expression, and the fact that he's holding the bottle behind him indicates this is something he doesn't want that Christian church to see.
Yes. Yes.
I get a sense of internal shame because of his behavior between the 2 stores and at night.
Yeah. Super. One more scene for Jamal. Jamal doesn't share his secret with anyone, but his wife knows. She knows that he comes home different when he went out. She knows his anger when he's been drinking. He threatens that if she ever tells anyone, it will be even bigger trouble for her. Now, how would you describe this man's character?
I was waiting for these. Because here in Africa, we talk about someone being religious and someone being spiritual.
Yes.
I was hoping all along that perhaps he has been religious and not as spiritual as the earlier pictures have painted. So we are there now.
Yes. And so what else does this tell you?
I would suggest that he's maybe, in fact, a conflicted or a torn person within himself. And makes them happy, while on the other hand, he has problems that he hasn't yet come into terms with.
Mhm. Very good.
He is living out of his trauma and still is scared to be hurt. And that is why he's hurting, because hurting people hurt others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's a sinner in need of grace like all of us. We might not be drinking and beating or angry at our spouse, but there's some things we all have hidden, I think.
True. Which is another reason why character theology is so relatable. Remember in the
Would he
beginning of
be-
Small's story, it said he does not have children of his own.
Yeah, that's what I had to say. Could he not be so frustrated that he has no children of his own? And so he was very fond of little children on the streets, very kind to them. And so that pictures him as becoming cruel because his wife has not given him a child.
Very good. Thank you for that. Very good. So we use this to help introduce the idea that a single snapshot of a person's life, a single story of their life, doesn't tell us everything we need to know. It's just that. It's a still frame of a single day or whatever period that might be in that person's life. And we've all heard many, many great messages from those single snapshots. They're very inspiring. And yet I think, wow, I wonder how much we're missing by not getting the larger story. So as we want to apply this to Bible characters, what we do in these courses, we've been developing a few of these courses for this denomination. Whoops, I didn't mean to go forward yet, was to walk them through things and encourage that while we're showing them a certain way to present, we're trying to do it with mnemonics that will help them. And so I said in the beginning, we do produce a written manual. We also produce a visual manual that has very few words. It has pictures for each day of class, and it has scripture references for all the stories that are shared. That's what gets passed on the most part. In some cases, we encourage that they can take these ideas and figure out how best to share them inside their. For example, for whatever reason, when I put this together, guidance for character studies, the letter C came to mind, and so I did the good old alliteration thing. Similar to what we heard some of Tom saying yesterday, but I'll walk you through these. As we look at characters, what's the person saying? And are they consistent in their messages? Are their words the same? Are they different? Are there different meanings behind them? The clues, what's the person doing? What actions and what does that tell you about them? And take time to look at that and take time to think about it and listen as we just did with our little snapshots into Jamal's life. Composure, their emotions. What kind of emotions are they having? How does this affect them? Are they consistent in that? And then if you can, the next is cause. Can you tell why the person has said or done these things? You know, that may also vary according to worldview perspective. And I can tell you, actually, it does. And that's something else that I love. I'm going to give a quick example here of a lesson that struck me deeply, deeply. I was in Dakar, Senegal, up early in the morning with a leader for the continent of Africa. And we got to talking about the woman caught in adultery in that story. And this brother gave me insights into that story that I never, ever heard in my life. And it came from his culture. And so I'll briefly share it with you. I told him, every time I've ever heard this story preached in the West, They said that when Jesus bent down and wrote in the dirt, he was either writing the names of the men around the circle or their sins. And I've heard this so many times. It's just like ingrained in me. That's what he was doing. And when people saw their name or their sin, that's when they turned and left, because they realized that he was calling them out. And, you know, for my culture, guilt and innocence, so that, okay, yeah, that would make me want to leave when I get called out there. Hope nobody saw that one. And Danny explained that that wasn't at all what was going on. So as we walk through the story, for his understanding and a person that comes from a shame and honor culture, he said what Jesus was doing had nothing to do with their names, their sins, or anything. He was offering a covering for the woman. He was distracting them to get them to watch him rather than this naked woman. And I said, oh my goodness, I am such an idiot. I didn't get that. I never saw that, because it's not where I come from. And then he explained to me how it works in his culture. He said, if I need to confront a friend who has done something wrong, he knows it, I know it. He said, I will sit with them and I will look at him once briefly as we start the conversation. And then I'll look away and I'll talk about things and about things and about things and about things. I won't ever name the thing in the very center. He'll know what I mean, and I know what I mean. And at the end, I'll look at him once more briefly, and I'm finished. And we both know why I did that, because I'm offering him a covering for his shame and space for him to make better decisions. And again, I was like, yeah, I was taught the exact opposite in my culture. You're going to look the person in the eye and bore the guilt into them until they crumble and confess and change. And it's like, that's not the way the world works in so many places. So understanding why a person has done something, the answers are going to be reflective of the culture. Very, very important for us. Two more. Conflict. How do they handle conflict? What does that tell you about them? Are they enemies? Do they want to take them out? Do they want to have God curse them, kill them, etc.? Do they want to run away? What do they do? And finally, change. They track the change. What happens from the beginning of this person's story to the end of this person's story that we can see attest to their character development, just like we just saw with Jamal. So we'll do a short little experiment because we don't have a lot of time. We went through many Bible stories in the 40-hour class that we had. We would do about 6 stories a day, some together and some in small groups, and discuss them. And so I'm hoping that you guys are all an expert on the story of Balak and Balaam and King Balak's desire to curse the people of Israel. And he hires Balaam to do this. Balaam sets out to, of course, go curse them. And he has the encounter that as he's riding his donkey, 3 times the donkey turns aside, and Balaam becomes very angry, beats the donkey each time, wants to kill him, and doesn't realize until the angel appears that the donkey's just trying to spare his life. I love it that the donkey talks to him, and then Balaam finally realizes, oh, I've been unwise, shall we say. And so I want to try something right now. And if you guys can think quickly with me, let's kind of walk through this story very quickly from the standpoint of how would you be telling the story, reflecting on after everything that has happened, if you were King Balak. You hired a guy to curse a nation of people, and he did not do what you wanted. How would you be reporting on that story? How'd you be feeling about it?
Can I respond?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I can't see everybody. I would, my goodness, this prophet, he has a real reputation for actually being able to effectually curse people that he's hired to curse. I don't know why he doesn't carry through on this. I offered him a lot of money and he seemed really reluctant this time, but he really blew it.
Yeah. Good.
A man goes back on his word against
Ooh.
breaks the deal.
Yeah. Good.
How can God be with him if he can't even keep his own word?
Nice. So important thinking about character. How can God be with him if he can't keep his word?
I should have listened to him when he told me he couldn't curse those people because God was telling him not to.
Ah,
I can't believe he can't control his own God.
very good. One more. Let's move to Balaam. Same story, obviously, but from the perspective of Balaam, how's he going to be retelling this story a week or a month later?
It's not
I
easy
can't believe-
working with this God.
Hmm.
It's not easy working working with this God or working for him.
Mhm.
I've missed a lot of opportunity. I mean, see how much I would have gotten from this deal, but it just didn't allow me to. It didn't allow me to cost these people. Just made me
Wow.
blessed. Wasted my life, wasted my time.
Oh, wow.
He
I
might,
like that.
he might say he just barely escaped with his life, and no doubt, I think he would talk about how the donkey spoke to him and his anger.
Yeah.
I can't believe I was talking to a donkey and didn't even realize it.
You think it might vary according to his audience? If he's at a work site, it might be, hey, what a dummy I was. But if he's in a Bible study, man, this is something I really learned.
Oh, wow.
You might even go as far as to say the donkey is smarter than I.
Yeah. Depending on the setting.
And I love that even all of those pieces give us more glimpse into the character and the reality of these situations. Because to me, Balaam's a complicated character. He's called a prophet or a seer, but based upon his observations, not really clear where his loyalty lies.
Also, how would I get to actually protect my people from this other people? So if I can't curse them, then what can I do to protect my people from these people?
Yeah.
But if you look at the full context of Balaam, he was eventually, it was very clear the estimation of the scriptures about him, and he was, I believe, killed because he was seeking to tempt the Israelites and was very much involved on this for money. So some of this comes out later. He's a complicated person at certain points in his story, but at the very end, I think it's the scriptures give a good conclusion.
Great, great. Thanks for that. Again, it points out the need to watch the character develop. Track the change in the beginning. It seems a bit sketchy. In the end, it seems like he's learned some lessons and his character has developed. So let's move to the angel. The angel's back in heaven. His assignment has been completed. What might he be saying to the other heavenly messengers about this encounter?
It is so hard to work with these humans. They just don't have any vision. In fact, fella didn't even see me, and his donkey did. And then he kept on trying to do something that I was bound to prevent, and he wouldn't listen to the donkey even. I mean, how many times can one enable a donkey to speak?
That's good.
But as a theophany, are we looking at Jesus going back to heaven, talking to the other angels? That would be a question in my mind.
I don't know. I could be asked. Can certainly be discussed as these are explored.
Once again, one of these guys came right up to the line. If he was going to cross it, he'd be killed. But he stopped, and mercy was given.
Yeah, yeah. So many stories could go very, very differently just for the want of a moment. Good, good.
I hope he's thankful for that donkey now. It's the only thing that kept him alive.
Yeah. And of course, in the story, we do get to hear from the donkey. Why are you beating me? Have I not been your faithful servant all of these years? Yeah, fascinating. So it makes me think again of our friends who say, watch the man's character. You'll know who the man is. Fascinating, fascinating study. So go ahead.
How much of our own personality comes into telling the story of the other person? I'm thinking if I was the angel, I'd say, come on, Lord, give me a break. Give me an easy assignment or something like that.
Yeah. It definitely happens. That's part of what I love about this is that we do project ourselves into the stories, and as the Spirit nudges those pieces and puts them together, they reflect back to us, and those become the transformation points that the stories bring back to life in us. They identify things in us. And so I kind of love it when we're in a discussion and things go in maybe 2 or 3 different directions because people are seeing different things. I don't worry about pointing out, oh, this is an issue in your life because I've been hearing it over the last 2 or 3 days. There's no need for me to do that. The Spirit's already doing that. And the person's own comments so many times come out because of what that person in the story did. I realize I need to, and then they'll make a statement, which so many times is a transformative decision on their part. And that's why for me, character theology is just the best discipleship tool we have. We're going to quickly run out of time here. I want to show you one more. We went through several characters in Old Testament and New Testament with these. And then I also walked them through some exercises of understanding these stories. If you are Muslim background, Christian background, animist background, and because of our students, we had all of those. And so it was easy for them to be in small groups and discuss these and discuss and acknowledge the differences that they had in how they hear the story. They simply don't hear it the same, but we had been taught many times that the stories are all supposed to sound the same. It's just not possible. We don't all come from the same background, life experiences, etc. And then different life stations as well. And so listen to the same story if you are a wealthy person, if you are a minimum wage worker, or if you are a disenfranchised, displaced person, you cannot hear the story the same. This can be threatening and scary for a lot of folks. I'm not worried about it because God's bigger than all of that. And I have to tell you, many years ago when I was learning how to do this, I was serving in Belize, training pastors there. And at that time, I was experimenting. Something about story was working, and I was still trying to figure it all out. And so I would start class each day with a story, and we would discuss it for 45 minutes or so. And one day, Pastor Gregorio, he's staring out the window, and he's just not engaging in the conversation. And I keep walking over in his direction, hoping to get him to speak up, and he doesn't. And he's just staring out the window the entire time, not like him. Normally he would participate somewhat. And this day he just had nothing to say. And I was really disappointed. But we were about to wrap up our conversation. And then he spoke up. He says, Pastor Ray, I'd like to share something. I thought, oh, finally, thank you. And what he shared next, I don't believe in reincarnation, but the thought went through my mind, I would not have made those observations in 6 lifetimes, because it came from his lived experience of a poor Quechua Indian growing up in the jungle. And it was that Bible story and his experience that way. It was astounding, absolutely astounding. And it still has dramatic impact on me to today because of that. And I just want to encourage us. There's so much to be found, to be explored, and the empowerment that we give to people, of course, is very, very powerful. When we help them to see that there's the opportunity to be who they are. The same way they learn about people in their community, which, by the way, you all know this, but for oral learners, they are communal. They're a collaborative society already. Let them be that. Let them use that as they listen to Bible stories. There's no need for it to be honed down to just one certain way. Let it reflect their own culture, their own experiences, and everyone will be the richer for it. The beautiful part on the other side is they will be empowered even more to be able to take it to their people. We're thrilled to see what's happening in northern Ghana with one of the groups there that has taken these classes and just absolutely run with it. They've gone into 8 generations and reached more than 26,000 people. And I'm blown away. And they're doing it all. It's just so very, very cool, because we've offered something and given permission and said, why don't you explore these stories in this manner? So I had intended on offering more information to you this week in a course format. COVID knocked me out for the week, so I haven't been able to do any of that, but I'm going to add my email here. Well, I can't even type at the end of the chat. If anyone would like to get in touch, and we can chat more about it. But I have to say, the more I think on this, the more fascinated I am, the more grateful I am that the scriptures are so filled with stories for every part of our lives, every part of our lives. So thank you all for indulging and listening. Thank you, Tara, for being a pit bull and chasing me down for 1.5 years. Yes, literally, that's what she did.
I just knew we needed you. I'm so humbled that you were willing to come even when you were sick. I just ask for the Lord to bring healing upon you, Ray, and strength. And we need this. We need what you're doing. And so, yes, please send to us so that we can get the information and how to get more, because what you're doing is amazing. And I think the thing that blows me away more than anything is how transformative it is. That what Ray is processing and doing, it is incredibly transforming. And look, you're getting claps. There you go. Yay. Right now, Katie has an image that she's going to pop up for me. I love how community works. My husband is in another room watching the conference while I'm here, like doing this part. And he created a nice little certificate for JO for putting her through and putting him through. And so JO, we are going to be presenting this to you from NARION that we just thank you. We give you a PhD. And so I'm so thankful for my husband and his quick endeavors in changing and creating this for that we can present. And so JO, we love you. And so here you go. We're giving you that degree because you've earned it. You've put enough of us through. So that's awesome. We're getting ready to go